Paint protection film, or PPF. Ceramic coating, both. Neither one of them. I'm Frugal Tesla Guy, and I'm going to tell you what I decided to go with, the process I went through to make that decision, and if that's the best thing for you. Let's get you right to it. So I think back to my first car. I was 15. I had $1,500 in my savings account, and I was able to, with that money, 100% buy a 1980 Volkswagen Rabbit Mustard Yellow. Now, at the time, I'd never even thought twice or even thought about protecting the paint on my car. And in the years that I bought more cars in the future, it never crossed my mind. But it wasn't until I bought the most expensive car I'd ever purchased, and that was my Tesla Model 3 in 2018. Now, at first, I looked at all the different options. And really what it came down to were two things: paint protection film and ceramic coating. But you see, at the time, paint protection film was something that for the most part you had to have professionally installed. And even for just the front part of the car, it was still way out of my budget. And the ceramic coating also way out of my budget. So there really weren't, at that point, really any good do-it-yourself options. So unfortunately, I just had to go without. But about 2 years later, Tesbros came out with their own do-it-yourself kit. And I thought, hey, you know what? I know it's a couple years in, there is already some damage to the paint, but rather than get more damage to the paint, why not install some PPF? So that's exactly what I did. And I'm grateful that I certainly have done that. All right, so I've got that on my first car. Let's fast forward to now, when I just recently purchased my Tesla Model Y Juniper. And yes, of course, the first thing you think of is, what do I do? Well, I want to protect the paint, bottom line. So I did more research, and I researched and I researched. Now, research these days, you know what it means, right? You Google things, you watch some YouTube videos, you try to believe that some of the people you're getting information from are professionals. And let me just go ahead and by saying this, that is, I'm not a professional when it comes to PPF, and I'm not a professional when it comes to ceramic coating, but I'm taking you through the process of how I made my decision to go with what I decided to go with. So based on my previous experience with PPF, I decided I wanted to go with Tesbros again, and they've really improved from their first kit to where they are now. See, the first kit on my Tesla Model 3, each body panel came in a couple of pieces. That is, the front bumper, it was like 3 or 4 separate pieces, so you had seams at the different body lines, and that was also the case for the side fenders as well. It came in a couple of pieces. It was just the front hood that actually came in one piece. Then a generation later, they improved that process, and now it is a fine-tuned, beautiful process that they've got. In fact, to a point where you take out the side cameras, so you don't have the line around the camera now. You take the camera off, so then you put the PPF on, put the camera back on, and you don't have the seam there anymore. You also take off the plastic protection of the fender. You take that off so you don't have a seam around there as well. So again, they've done an amazing job at that point. But what really made me decide to go with PPF, and I'm just going to go ahead and say that's what I decided to go with, is because really, in the end, it came down to protecting the paint. And what I've already noticed, now that I've got a dark colored car as opposed to a white car, it's a lot easier to see the imperfections. And I definitely want to protect it as much as I can. And ideally, you'd have it done the second you drive it home, okay? But obviously, that's not what happened. So with ceramic coating, really, the bottom line with ceramic coating is it just makes your car look really nice and shiny, and according to the experts, it's easier to clean. But based on what I've discovered, that's not necessarily the case. You still got to do the 2-bucket method, and based on what some of the professionals are saying is, you still got to wash your car once a week. You've got to do things to protect the ceramic coating. So it's not quite as easy to maintain as you would think when it comes to ceramic coating. So really, it was kind of a no-brainer for me. Protect the paint. And what now I'm discovering, I've so far just done the front of the car. I've now decided that I think I'm going to go ahead and move forward and do the rest of the car. Now, I was talking to the folks over at Tesbros about this, and that's something that they said, sure, yeah, we can certainly do that. It's not something they recommend because you've got to do the prepping process more than once. And the prepping process, you know, it's not the funnest part of the whole job, but it is something I'm probably going to end up doing eventually down the road. Now I want to tell you about the process, and especially this time around, really researching things. You know, I did a lot of the research in 2018 when I was trying to figure out if this is what I wanted to do or not. In the end, it was too expensive. Here we are, what, 6, 7 years later. Technology's changed to the point of where PPF has changed, where even ceramic coating has changed. And now, like for example, this right here cost me less than a couple $100. This is a apply yourself ceramic coating that will be just as effective if you have it done by someone professionally. So the process of installing the ceramic coating is certainly a lot easier, or I don't even know if it's necessarily easier, but it's something that companies are selling to people such as myself and you to install this yourself. And when you see the videos on how to do it, you're like, yeah, I can totally do that. So here's what it really came down to. I knew it was PPF I was going to go with. It was the ceramic coating, and I thought, well, maybe because a lot of videos were saying put on the PPF, then the ceramic coating on top of that. You know, PPF has, to its own extent, the hydrophobic properties, but this only aids it and makes it even more hydrophobic. The more hydrophobic, the better. It's going to help to keep your car cleaner, and it's going to be easier, for the most part, for you to wash your car than if you didn't have it. So really what I wanted to do was find some videos of people who absolutely hate PPF and think it's a waste of money and think it's terrible. And I found a couple of those. And here are some of the arguments that they came up with against PPF. And honestly, I kind of agree with them. So here you go. Number one, they say this: no matter how professionally the job is done, there are going to be seams and edges on the PPF. And over time, those edges will collect dirt. With a light colored car, especially, you're going to notice it. Dark colored cars, it's not as easy to notice. So I can tell you that is very much true. I look at my white Tesla Model 3, and it indeed, in some of the seams and in some of the edges, there is dirt collecting. Now, with that said, some edges and seams are collecting more dirt than others. And that's simply because it's just error on my part. I didn't properly really seal in those edges, but no matter how well you seal those edges, they will, to some extent, collect some dirt, and it will be noticeable over time. Is it really noticeable? Not really, unless you're really looking for it, but it is something to think about. Number two, the paint protection film will only protect your car to a certain extent. There are going to be certain rocks and pebbles that are big enough that the impact will actually damage the PPF and go through the PPF, and it may even chip your paint. So the people say, well, then that's useless. Well, not necessarily, because I'd say majority of the pebbles and the rocks that your car is exposed to when you're driving are going to be protected by the PPF. And PPF, as you may or may not know, is self-healing. So there are going to be some of those rocks, though, that cause permanent damage to your PPF, and some people say that it's unsightly, like that of a rock chip. Well, sure, that may be the case. I would say this: I agree there is going to be some damage to your car, to the PPF, but not to the extent that you're going to see more chips in the end on your car than you would if you didn't have the PPF. So the PPF is doing its job, and if the PPF gets damaged, well, it's better that the PPF gets damaged and not your car, right? That's really the end of it. Now, if you get enough damage to the PPF where it's really unsightly, then sure, maybe you can redo it, or maybe just redo just the front hood, whatever, right? There's different things that you can do and go around that. All right, so that's another argument. Another argument is that the PPF can actually stain if you don't properly take care of it. And that's something I'd agree with as well. You know, bug guts, that's going to be the big thing. You're hitting a lot of bugs. Those bug guts are very acidic. And if you don't wash them off in time, eventually those bug guts will permanently stain on your PPF. So you've got to make sure that you're washing off the bug guts on a regular basis. Maybe not necessarily every day, right? Or if you go on a road trip, maybe just make sure that you wash out those bug guts as well. But those were really the main arguments against the PPF. Dirt collecting along the edges. The PPF is not 100%, damage proof. It can get damaged, and your car may even get a paint chip as a result. But that's another argument. And of course, the other argument is the bug guts and the stains that you can get on your PPF. To me, though, I would much rather the stain get on the PPF. I'd much rather PPF get damaged than my car. And as far as the seams are concerned, that to me is just a sacrifice, if you will, to have the paint of your car protected. So let me tell you about my experience installing PPF. I've actually done this 4 different times, believe it or not. Now, the first time was actually before I installed it on my Tesla Model 3, and that was a kit that a friend of mine had purchased for his Model Y. It was a 2020 Tesla Model Y. And it was just some random company. I don't even remember who they were. All they gave you was the actual pre-cut film, and that's it. Not much in the way of instruction. None of the tools that you need. You had to get all the tools to make sure you had the proper tools to install it. And quite honestly, it was a bit of a disaster. We didn't know how to stretch the PPF properly. We didn't know the techniques to install the PPF properly. There is a method to the madness, different steps on where you actually tack down the PPF, and there's an order in which you need to do it. And there was really not much instruction on that either. So it was not the best job done. There were a lot of bubbles, there were a lot of creaks, there were a lot of fingers that didn't really get fixed. It just was a bit of a mess. Then the second time I did it was with the Tesla Model 3. It was the Tesbros first kit. I wouldn't say very easy, but because of the process of watching their videos, it made it a lot easier. And the seams weren't perfect, and it wasn't a perfect job, but as I still have it on my car, it still, for the most part, looks pretty good and has protected the paint, and that's what it was supposed to do. Now, the third time I had done it, it was on my friend's Tesla Model S Plaid. And that was when Tesbros had really improved. There were no longer any seams on the body panels. All the body panels had just one piece. And it was, again, the process was even easier because now this was my third time doing this. I was able to help him, and he's still very happy with how it ended up. Fourth time, I've just done it. Now, that is on my Tesla Model Y Juniper. Now, this, like I said, is the 4th time I've done it, so I felt very comfortable going into the job. And once again, Tesbros has not disappointed. Their how-to videos, their step-by-step process made it so much easier for me. And of course, knowing what I had already known after the first 3 times, it certainly was easier as well. So with that said, if this is your first time, do note that there's going to be a bit of a learning curve. But here's the beauty of it. What Tesbros does, number 1, is you can watch the videos over and over again. And that really helps familiarize yourself with the techniques and how to do it. But number 2, to actually give you that physical feel of how it works, they give you a couple of practice pieces so you can learn the different techniques, how the slip solution works, how tacking works, different stretching techniques, because that's also an important factor when it comes to installing PPF. So that's really the beauty of the whole process. And if you have a friend helping, that makes it even easier. But I will say this 4th time, it was a much easier process than the first time. And I pretty much did it by myself. Now, here's my suggestion in my 4 times that I've done this. I'm not an expert. Again, let's remember that. But here is my suggestion. Do it in this order. Start with the hood. And I know that is one of the most intimidating pieces, but it's a flat surface. There's only really 4 tacking points, not a whole lot of stretching, and it's a pretty simple, basic process. Then go on to do the side fenders. It's a little bit more complicated. There's more body curves, more body lines, the works, but it kind of introduces you to more different techniques, such as stretching as well. It's the front bumper that is the most challenging, and that is the one you're going to want to save for last, and it's going to just allow yourself some time and patience. Now, with that all said, I'd say really the first thing you need to do is probably the headlights and that front light bar, because that's even the easiest, right? So that's what I would suggest first: the headlights and the lighting bar, then the hood, then the side fenders, then the front bumper, and then maybe save the side view mirrors for last. Kind of a big curve there. Not the hardest, but I would just say save that for last. So that's kind of my overall process as far as putting it on. The other thing that I highly recommend is that you have proper lighting, because the problem is if it's too dark in there, you're not going to see maybe little specks of dirt or maybe pieces of hair that get caught between the PPF and the car. And if you catch it soon enough, you can very easily take those out and then get the installation underway. But if the lighting is not good enough, you're not going to find those, and it's not until after you finish the job that you get it out in the sunlight and you go, what's that? Oh, a little speck of dirt. Oh, a little piece of hair. And then suddenly you've got something in there permanently until you take it off, all right? So that's kind of my experience, some of the things that I've learned along the way, and some of the suggestions and advice from me to you as someone who's done this 4 different times. And you can go with and do with that as you wish. But just know that Tesbros really has you covered in those videos. Now let's talk about the pricing, because if you have a professional do it, you can pretty much rest assured, most likely, that it's going to be done properly and it's going to be almost pretty much a pristine job. But here's the problem. I actually went to a local shop here in Redding, California, and I got 2 different quotes, and they were basically exactly the same. There's not a lot of options here, so they're probably pretty much competing with each other and keeping things the same. So for the front of the car alone, for the bumper, for the front hood, for the side fenders, the side view mirrors, and even that front little pillar of the car, it was $2,000. Now that was for all the paint correction, the works. Right? They go in there, they make sure the paint is pristine, so then when they put the PPF on top, it all looks beautiful and wonderful and great, okay? Now, I said, okay, how much will it cost for the entire car? Well, the entire car was $6,000. That, of course, included all of the car, all the prep work, the works. So I'm like, $2,000, okay, maybe, right? But $6,000? Wow. I mean, that was definitely one of those situations you're like, no, that's not going to happen. But here's the beauty of Tesbros. Number one, it saves you a lot of money. So for the front of the car, the full kit itself, it's going to cost you less than $1,000. Now for the full car, here's where you're really going to save a lot of money. About $2,000. $2,000 as opposed to the $6,000 that my local shop wanted to charge. That is a $4,000 savings. And if you have the patience, and if that's worth saving $4,000 to you and you do it yourself, then it's pretty much a no-brainer, isn't it? Now the kit, as I mentioned, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, the kit that they send you is everything you need, minus, of course, the buckets for washing your car. They give you the spray bottles for your slip solution for the tack. They give you all of these squeegees. They give you microfiber cloths. They give you a wash mitt to wash your car and degrease the car. They give you the soap suds. They give you the degreaser. They, of course, give you the PPF. What else am I missing? They give you everything. They give you the pre-mixed or the little pre-measured soap to put for the slip solution. They give you the isopropyl alcohol, I believe that's how you say it, to mix up your tack solution as well. They give you, I mean, again, the list goes on and on. They give you everything you need. That way you're not having to go out and buy this or buy that. It's all right there for you. So that's the beauty of it. So it's not just the actual, PPF, but it's everything that you need within the kit. And that really helps that process a lot easier. And again, those videos, I tell you what, without those, you would not be able to do this because it's a step-by-step process. You've got to know where, the order in which you tack things down, how you're going to stretch that PPF in different locations, where you're going to tack it down all together, the works. So that is something that, Tesbros has done an amazing job to make it easier for you. And here's the other thing too. They do not put out a product until they know it is something that they feel confident that the average person will be able to apply themselves. And that's been the process since day one. And it's been a learning process for them. And also note, I've seen people make comments on, you know, under $1,000 for the front of the car and $2,000 for the entire car. They say that that's expensive. Well, if you're talking about just the actual material itself, yes, it's going to be more than that. But again, keep in mind, they're giving you the know-how to install this. Keep in mind, they're giving you everything else you need to install this. Keep in mind, they are doing a lot of trial and error to get it just perfect. This is something that was cut for the car. If you buy the material yourself without it being pre-cut, can you imagine having to cut it yourself? No, it's too much. So they have done an outstanding job. And to me, what they are offering this for, at a fraction of the cost of getting it done professionally, it's day and night as far as I'm concerned. So that is my take on getting it done professionally. And if you're willing to pay that kind of money, great, go and do it. But if you want to save some money, a lot of money, especially if you do the entire car, this is the way to go. Tesbros pre-cut system, it's a no-brainer. And as long as you have the time and the patience and you don't skip any steps and you do it properly, you're going to be happy with the outcome. So in the end, I'm really happy with my decision. I think Tesbros has done an amazing job with their pre-cut kits, and their kits in general are still to this day absolutely amazing. Am I happy with the overall job, with the hood, with the fenders, with the side view mirrors? Absolutely. Are they perfect? Even the fourth time having done this? No. There are a few imperfections here and there, but they're not all that noticeable, and unless you're looking for them, you're not going to notice them. In the end, the paint of my car is being protected. Now, what I've already noticed, and this is a little frustrating, I've already noticed a scratch, a small scratch on the driver's side door. Now I'm beginning to think that I do want to actually do a full body paint protection film. So I will probably be ordering the rest of the paint protection film from Tesbros, and that is going to be something I will be doing in the future. So be sure to be on the lookout for that video as I go through that process with the doors and the back of the car and see what that process. And that'll actually be the first time I do any other part of the car. So it will certainly be a learning process for me as well. So I'll be sharing that experience with you once I get to that point. But let me know what you think. Is this something that you've been considering? Do you want to protect the paint of your car? Do you want to do ceramic coating? Well, I'm not going to be able to help you with the overall experience because I've never done it before. Once I do the entire car, I do plan on finally using this and probably putting ceramic coating on top of the PPF. That's what I'm planning on doing. But if you are thinking about doing PPF, is this something you've considered doing on your own and doing the self-kit by Tesbros? I recommend it. I really do. And you may not be 100% happy with the results. And I'm going to be honest with you, you've got to be prepared for the fact that it is not going to be perfect, especially the first time you do it. However, PPF is forgiving, trial and error. If you don't like the way it looks the first time, peel it back, reapply some slip solution, do it again. You don't like it, peel it back, put some more slip solution, do it again. There is time for you to get it to as perfect as you can do it to your ability. And then of course you can continue to go on to the rest of the car. But again, I do want to stress that no matter how hard you try to do it, it's still not going to be 100% perfect. That's just the bottom line with this. I will say this, with my car, I did not have the proper lighting. And there are a few spots where there are some little pieces of hair in between the PPF and the paint. Am I thrilled about it? No. Is this something that I'm going to notice regularly? No, it's not the end of the world. But in the end, the car, the paint is being protected. And that's really the bottom line. But overall, yes, I'm very happy with how the car looks. I can't tell the difference between where the PPF is and where there isn't PPF. And that's the sign of a fairly good job, not necessarily by a professional though. So yeah, again, let me know what you think in the comment sections below. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Is this something you consider? Is it still too expensive? Yeah, it's not cheap, but you can, through my discount code, get a discount, get a 15% discount on the PPF. I'll put a link in the description below. Follow that link, then type in my code, and you will be good to go. And I'll, of course, have the code in the description below as well. So be sure to check that out. In the meantime, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, and stay positively charged.